Been a while.
It has been a while.
Hey, what is up, guys, and welcome back to Predatory Exotics.
So it has, in fact, been a while. Almost a year, actually. Not quite a year, but pretty much a year.
Yeah, we've been off it about 9 months, but we are back. We are better than ever. You'll notice that we don't have the sporadic reptiles that we used to here and there. Now we've got a full reptile room. So our first video back on YouTube after almost a year is going to be a brand new, better reptile room tour.
So you might be wondering where exactly we have been. Well, we kind of just took a break. We've been doing YouTube for about 3 years, now. And we just kind of took a break. It wasn't meant to be as long as it was, but it did end up being that long. But we are back. That is the main part.
Yeah, it's supposed to be sort of a little month off to give us a bit of a rest and then get back into it. But then we changed a lot of things around, and at the end of the video, we'll actually talk about some of the reasons, not just with us, but with the whole UK reptile hobby, the reasons why we didn't do as much, didn't put as much content out. We'll talk about that at the end of the video if you stick around till then.
But without further ado, what you guys have all been waiting for and what you clicked on this video, let's get right into the reptile room tour.
So let's get this reptile room started with our arid racking. This is a 4-shelf heavy-duty unit. Obviously you can see the decals all around it that covers up the lighting with the arid theming. Obviously it's got our name, Predatory Exotics. Everything on this racking is more of an arid theme other than maybe this one that is moving off eventually. But let's get into with the top shelf here. Ollie will start explaining what animals we have.
So guys, we're starting at the top of the racking. Now this is our wedge-snouted skinks, Chalcide sepsoides. We're not actually going to be getting them out, so I'm going to throw up some B-roll now because these guys are quite a pain to get out. But these guys are probably one of the first unique species we probably actually got. We traveled a long way to get them. These guys are from North Africa and the Middle East. These guys are actually a fossorial species. It basically means they live underground. And if you guys can see in the clip, they have what are called vestigial legs. Basically, it kind of is where they used to have legs, and now they pretty much kind of don't. They just have really small ones, which don't really serve much purpose to them. But yeah, great species.
So moving on to our next level, we have our Nuevo Leon king snake. We have 2 in our collection. This is the male, and if you know about Nuevo Leon king snakes, they come in a couple of different phases. These are basically like naturally occurring morphs. Phase is the technical term. So this is the milk snake phase. So if you have seen milk snakes, they have the red bars. This is a milk snake phase Nuevo Leon king snake. They come from northern Mexico in the state of Nuevo Leon. They're such a cool species from a really arid climate, and they come from these they're called like mountainous islands, where they're quite cool as well. They are from a desert, but they have quite a cool temperature, especially at night time. They're from these isolated high islands in the Sierra Madre Oriental mountain range. So moving on to the next animal on our shelf, we have another colubrid snake. This is a Cape African house snake. You'll notice this one is albino. That's why it doesn't have the darker coloration. It has very light coloration. And in the close-ups, you'll actually see that it has a red slit has a pupil. That's because all you can see is the blood vessels. There's no pigment in the actual eye itself. I chose a Cape African house snake because it is the largest of the species of house snakes. There's quite a few, and females get larger as well. They can get up to 4 feet long. So this one is due an upgrade. Probably in the next couple of videos you will actually see us do a full build for this. She's going to be moving into a lot larger enclosure. Really excited, and it's going to be a really in-depth build, so stay tuned for that one. A really awesome snake, and possibly a alternative to a corn snake if you're looking at getting your first snake. Such an easy snake to keep and holds on to you, as you can see, very easily.
So these are our western banded geckos. Moving on to the next shelf down. These guys are actually from a specific park in the US. It's the Anza Borrega Desert State Park, which is really cool to actually know where in the world they came from. Now these guys are, as you can tell, not the best at handling. But that's why we keep them on the cork here. But nonetheless, these are a great species, and obviously I feel like they're quite similar in like kind of shape to, that's the name. I tend to find that these guys are quite commonly shaped as the leopard gecko, not as big as especially some leopard geckos can get, but these guys are nonetheless such a cool species, and you can tell that the male and the female are quite drastically different sized, as the female is the one in the video. I'm just trying to be as gentle as I can with this guy because they are quite delicate with handling. But nonetheless, a great species and definitely a cool one. Why are you being so adventurous? So moving along to the next tank is actually our viper geckos. Now these guys are generally from Pakistan and also known as the turnip-tailed geckos. You probably noticed that. Hopefully the camera does pick it up, as they have this extremely fat tail. This is a micro gecko species, and it's one of Tom's favorite micro gecko species, and I know that he'd been wanting to get these for probably the whole time I've known Tom, and then eventually we did get them, and it's super cool, and we've been trying to breed and produce babies. But fun fact about these guys are terrestrial, so they live on the ground, but they can actually climb glass. It's bizarre, but yeah, no, nonetheless, a very cool micro gecko species to have.
So we're down on our bottom shelf of the racking now, another micro gecko species, and this is actually the original micro gecko species that got me into micro geckos. This is Stenodactylus sthenodactylus. It's the nominate species. There's a few different species in the hobby that you can get. This is probably the most popular, and as you notice in the up close footage, they're there's a lot of different color variations you can get. We were lucky enough to breed a lot of these geckos. We've sold them to a lot of our local pet shops. We've got a very high orange wild caught male that we bred, and then we produced a lot of orange babies. So you'll notice some of them in the footage. They're very cool species. A lot of character in a little personal, a lot of character in a small package. They're a great species that you can keep in groups. So we actually have a couple of males and some females. The couple of males actually increases the breeding activity because you'll hear them chirp through the night. They're very cool. Love watching them run around the sand dunes. They are a species that is safe to keep on sand. They're called dwarf sand geckos. Unlike stuff like leopard geckos or bearded dragons, there's a lot of misconceptions on keeping them on sand. These are a species that is definitely suited to sand. So a great species that you can keep in a colony in a relatively small sized tank. Love this species and definitely got me into micro geckos because they're just so cute. So this is our other Nuevo Leon king snake that I mentioned earlier. This is our female, and you'll notice that she looks a little bit different to the male. That is because she's a different phase. The male was a milk snake phase with the large red bars. This is a Leonis phase, so those bars turn into sort of blotches up and down the snake. She also has quite a different base color. Sometimes it looks like a almost olive green. It's very cool, and hopefully you can see in the close-up footage on her neck she has almost bow tie marking, which is very cool as well. Such a cool snake. I probably wouldn't recommend it to the proper beginners because they can be quite flighty. You can tell she's flighty now, but when she was a baby she used to pee every single time you got her out of the tank. But as adults they do get a little bit better. They stay quite small, so 3 to 3.5 feet, so smaller than your corn snakes or your other larger king snake species. And this is probably one of my favorite enclosures. It's themed after where they're from in Nuevo Leon. So we have the aloe vera and the tequila bottle as well. Really cool themed tank. She seems to enjoy it, and we'll hopefully do a mirrored version for the male as well.
So moving on to the probably offset tank from the rest of the racking. It's the standalone one down here. This is our bearded dragon. This is Bondi. Now, as you guys probably know, bearded dragons are probably the most common reptile, one of the most common reptiles in the hobby. But there is a reason for that. As you can probably tell, most of them are quite docile. Thanks for the lick. Most of them are quite docile, but this was actually a rescue, and I'll throw up some footage of how she was when we got her versus now. Because it is quite cool to go back and see the progress, which obviously she has had quite a drastic change. Now, these guys come from Australia and they spend most of their day pretty much sunbathing. They'll be on trees, rocks, fences, anything, just soaking up the sun until it's time for bugs. And then this happens. Yeah, but yeah, nonetheless, a great reptile to keep, and definitely would recommend it. The only issue is you do require a big, which way are you going? You do require a big tank. Yeah, you're just gonna, there you go. You do require a big tank, which obviously you can see behind me, and there is no cuts around. You have to get the tank and provide it for them. But nonetheless, great species, especially if you're wanting to just get into the hobby yourself.
So moving on to the next part of the reptile room, we have our custom built snake rack.
Before we get into the actual rack of snakes, guys, I just want to let you guys know, please leave a like if you are enjoying this video, and don't forget to comment down below. Comment down below what sort of species you guys have in your reptile room. So don't forget to also subscribe if you are enjoying our content, because it really helps us, really helps the channel, shows how much you guys are liking it, and it drives us to make more content for you guys. So back to the video.
We keep some of our snakes in the snake rack, mostly because of the species that they are. We feel that they're better suited to the tubs inside. If you've watched the channel previously when we did the videos, you'll know that I'm absolute Samboa nuts. We've got several different Samboas in this rack. And we don't really see the point in keeping them in display vivariums because they spend most of the time under the substrate anyway. That being said, we would like to upgrade this rack in the future to maybe have lighting or even UVB lighting, as we feel it would benefit the snakes a bit more. So let's get into it and let's see all the different species of Samboa and one other species we have on this racking.
So this is the first one on our racking. This is our female Kenyan sandboa. Now this is kind of what your normal sandboa would look like. Now of course this is the female, so it's going to be a lot bigger than the male, which you'll see in a minute. But this is basically, if you kind of think, this is probably the most common sandboa in the community. This is your normal one, but this is our large female, and it was one of the first ones we actually got. And as you can see, I don't know if you can tell, because she's not really stretched out, but she is about 3 foot long, which is around the max that sandboa will get the females. But yeah, no, we're hoping, we've done, tried to do some pairing with this one, and we hopefully do some more future breeding as well.
So this is our other normal Kenyan Samboa, but this is the male. This is pretty much a full-grown male. They get almost half the size, so they get about 1.5 feet rather than the 3 foot that the females get. You'll notice the difference though in coloration, even though they're both normals. The female is much more orange, and this one is almost like a blonde sort of color in the, it's not fully orange, but it's not yellow either. As you can tell, this one is a little bit less accustomed to handling. It tends to flip out a little bit, which is a little bit crazy. So if you do get a first snake and it isn't the best at handling, sometimes it is just that snake. Don't be put off by it, because if I certainly got this one as the first one, I'd think Samboas are a little bit crazy, but they're not. They're pretty docile snakes, and this one is a good pet, even though he isn't the best at handling.
So moving on, next is another Samboa of ours. This is actually our albino Samboa, and as you can see, we got this one when they were very small. That's why it's a lot smaller than the previous two that you saw. But the cool thing about this guy is the color. Look at the colors on that close-up. Hopefully the camera does do it justice and kind of shows off the colors in here. Basically, it is the same thing. It's a normal Samboa, but just got different genes. So it makes it quite cool. It gives it that kind of like cream look in a sense. Like normally albino animals are white, like pure white with like red eyes, but this one, slightly different variation of look as an albino. But yeah, very cool. So basically, same species, but different genes.
So this might not be the most colourful snake we have in our collection, but it is one of the most unusual. This is a Rufescens samboa, a pretty rare occurrence in the hobby. You'll notice it's mostly brown in coloration, but it does have some orange flecks across it, which are quite cool. Rufescens are pretty rare in the hobby, but a lot of people might know about the striped Kenyan samboa. That actually occurs when you breed a normal Kenyan samboa to these Rufescens samboas. They're a very cool species, but we have actually done a video on it because there is some debate whether it is a species, a subspecies, or it is just a phase of the Kenyan samboa. But nonetheless, something we're really happy to have in our collection.
So let's get ourselves out of the sand for a second and move on to a different species that we have on our rack. This is actually our Western hognose. Now, as you guys probably know if you've ever seen this species, they have a very dominant feature that kind of gives them their name, and it's that upturned snout that they have. They're a wonderful species, and like we definitely want to get more in the future and probably look into breeding, but this one's actually quite cool. It's actually het for pastel pink. Now, hopefully the camera again does this justice because it does actually have quite a pink tendency to its scales, which is pretty cool. It definitely gives it that more of a uniqueness, but no, hognoses are a great species. One thing that you might be put off by is these guys are actually venomous, but it is mild. You don't need a DWA, and it is actually in fact rear fang venom, so they kind of have to chew it into you as opposed to your normal snake bite. But nonetheless, a very cool species and definitely one to look into if you haven't already.
So this is actually my favorite species of samboa. This is a rough scale samboa. Just love the patination on this kind of snake. It's got the zigzag down its back, almost looks like a viper, and they actually imitate the Russell's viper from India, where they're from. They have the same sort of patination, which is very cool. But I just love this species, the grey head into the body, and then it almost has like a gold outline of that pattern. Such a cool species, and a lot of the time it does ball up. It's a very cool snake, and again, not that common in UK collections. There are a few, and they can get quite pricey. Such an awesome snake, rough scale samboa. Unless we get some of the really rare samboa species, this is definitely going to be my favorite for a long time.
Now, moving on next, this is our Tartar samboa. Now, of course, you can probably tell by the size, this is our male. We actually got lucky enough to get a pair at the same time, which these guys, we don't believe are that common in this hobby, especially in the UK. We haven't really seen them, so to find an actual pair is actually crazy. We've definitely tried to do some breeding, and I'll probably let Tom explain a bit more on how that went when we get the female out. But nonetheless, a cool variation of samboa. This guy's just gonna hang there. A very cool variation of samboa. But yeah, time to move on to that female.
So this is the female Tartar samboa that Ollie was mentioning a minute ago. You can definitely tell the size difference. They're both about 4 to 5 years old. This is the female, who is probably 3.5 foot. They can get up to 4 feet long, at least double the size and double the width as well. Such a cool species. And in terms of samboa, they spend a lot of time out on the top of the surface. So if you want a samboa that is a bit more terrestrial as opposed to fossorial, a Tartar samboa, if you can find it, is a great alternative. Tartar samboas are a little bit difficult to breed. Ollie mentioned we tried last year, but because of where they're from, sort of northern Europe into Russia, Uzbekistan, it does get cold in the winter, so they do require brumation. So even though we saw locks of the two snakes, unfortunately we didn't get any babies. So that is something to consider for the future, because this would be an awesome snake to have babies of, and really a decent samboa species.
So moving on to the last part of the racking, it's our actual baby samboas, ones that we have actually produced. So it was the normal mum, who is the mum of these, and then the dad is not currently actually in this room, he's in another location. But we actually got a lot of babies produced. We've had our ups and downs with the babies, definitely, which we'll probably do a whole separate video on, so I won't really go into details, but you can at least see some baby sand boas right now. This one that I'm actually holding is probably the coolest colored one we actually produced. It's more of like a beigey kind of color with some heavy spots, which is nice and it looks great. And it's kind of crazy how different all of them actually did come out. But yeah, so we did manage to produce some babies, and some of them are eating great and doing well. So yeah, these are our baby sand boas. So guys, that was our reptile room tour. Hope you guys did enjoy that, and hopefully you guys will stick around for the journey and build this room up, because it's got so much potential and we're only in the starting phase of it.
Yeah, we didn't want to make this video too long. We didn't want an hour-long reptile room tour. So obviously we were quick on some of the animals. So make sure you stay tuned to other videos where we go more in depth on each species. And obviously, we're going to be doing reptile builds for all of the animals that need upgrades. Quite a few of them need upgrades, and we're going to do themed tanks like we did in the past, but even better and even higher quality.
So let's get on to kind of what's been going on, I guess, in our lives. Obviously, we've been planning so much to do with Predatory Exotics. It's actually crazy. That's all we are talking about is the future plans that we've got, and we've got stuff in the works, which is great as well.
So Ollie mentioned we've got stuff in the works. We probably won't do a video every week like we used to, because we are going to be doing higher quality videos. That means the content that is coming up in the next couple of months is going to be...
Hopefully you guys like it, because we're putting a lot of effort into it.
You might not even recognise what we're doing.
So what else has been going on? Well, for anyone who doesn't actually live in the UK is in a bit of a shamble right now, because energy crisis, cost of living, everything is skyrocketing, and it's causing a lot of issue in the reptile community mainly because of the electricity, and people aren't really able to keep their reptiles anymore.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people are struggling in the UK with their own general lives, let alone if you keep reptiles, because obviously a lot of the reptiles require a decent heat spot. Even if you got something that doesn't use a heat mat, it still uses electricity, and the price of electricity these days is absolutely ridiculous. So you can imagine if someone has a larger collection like we do, the struggles that they have to go through. Also, we thought it was a little bit insensitive doing videos about care guides and stuff when there's so many animals that are being dumped.
Yeah, it's becoming a real issue, and we kind of want to bring the attention to people. If you're having an issue, try and take it somewhere. Don't just leave it outside, because they're not meant to be in the wild in the UK. Where there are basically no reptiles in the UK pretty much. There's the simplest forms, like these higher species from hotter climates and stuff, just won't survive in the UK.
So yeah, definitely take, if you are struggling, take it to a local pet shop or take it to your local rescue centre. They are more than likely take it in for you, because as Ollie said, they're not going to survive out in the yard. Even if it's sunny outside and you think, yeah, it'll be fine, when it comes to winter, when it's raining, when it's cold, when the humidity is not enough, these reptiles are going to suffer and then probably end up perishing, which obviously is not good for the hobby and not good for the animal, because we don't want to be doing that.
Speaking of the hobby and stuff that is going on, if you guys keep up with this sort of stuff, DWAs in the UK, we have one insurance company, that dealt with DWAs, and they are no longer going to be. So this is becoming another issue.
Yeah, it's a real struggle. I tried to keep up with it because it is something we plan to do in the future. So we want to keep up to date with all of the DWA side of it, even though we're not getting into it yet. We would like to get into it in the future. Maybe not the near future, but in the next few years, we would like to dabble in the DWA side of things. But as Ollie said, the main insurer decided not to. I believe they've been bought out, but then the cover might not carry on. So all these people with dangerous wild animals, specifically on our side, sort of venomous snakes, venomous lizards, they're not really sure what to do with it, and prices, like everything in the UK, is increasing, so the insurer wants even more money. So it is a really difficult situation. We're lucky enough that we don't have to have that problem at the moment, but we definitely want to keep on track with it. So if you know anything more, comment down below for people that might be interested in that.
So what else is going on in the UK? Well, the shows in the UK are crumbling is the best. We're gonna go with crumbling. I don't want to touch on too many people's toes because I know that a lot of effort and work goes into them. So we recorded a great video and we loved that video. It was to the Surrey Reptile Show. And we put it up and it started to gain quite a lot of traction at the beginning, which was great and it was cool. Like, we put a lot of effort into it. And then suddenly they messaged and requested that we took it down. So, you know, we comply with it. We don't have an issue with that. People have an issue with our footage or anything like that. Like, we're happy to help. So we took it down. The show then was recorded again by someone else and they commented that they liked it.
It's all very confusing. We don't know what to do.
So the Surrey show's actually now stopped. They don't actually do the show anymore. So we've put the video back up. So go and check that out because it's a great video. It's got some cool animals in it. It was one of the shows that we went to where the amount of different species we actually found was crazy, especially one guy's table in specific. And then
it was a very good show.
So definitely go check that out. I'm going to put the link in the description so you guys can quickly get to it, but it is back up online.
Plus, I don't think anyone can actually moan about it because the SRAS is now disbanded.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. So.
There is no... We were members of the Surrey Reptile community, the club.
Yeah.
We were members, and then they cancelled all the membership and transferred everyone to, I believe, the Portsmouth, which is not close to Surrey.
Miles away.
But yeah, it's not even a thing anymore, so...
Yeah, so go check that video out.
Obviously, even the IHS Reptile Show, the main one in the UK, was in Doncaster, which we did a couple videos on. We've got several animals from there. Then moved to Manchester. They did 1 or 2 in Manchester, and then they stopped that. And now it's moving to Milton Keynes. I will be attending the one in Milton Keynes because it's not too far. We used to do a 6-hour drive to Doncaster.
It used to be a long drive.
Now it's only a sort of 2.5-hour drive. So I will be attending the one. I don't think you can make it.
No, I'm going to be out of the country, actually. I'm going to be out of the country when it's on.
So yeah, I'll be attending that. Probably won't record it because I don't want to step on anyone's. Even though you are allowed, but you aren't allowed. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
So we probably won't actually record it because we don't want to be insensitive to anyone. We'll just show you the pickups and maybe do like a vlog style video of going to the show and what you might need if you want to go to the show. But definitely the shows, I don't know what the future is. If they have to move it every year, that could make it quite difficult. And then if they run out of councils or places to host it, that would be really troublesome.
So guys, that is coming to the end of the video. We've rambled on enough for you guys for today. Don't forget to subscribe if you guys want to see all the future content that we currently have planned, because it is going to be good. It is going to be cool, and hopefully you guys will like it.
You definitely don't want to miss it. So if you're new here, comment that you're new, and if you're old, comment that you are old viewer.
Oh geez.
Yes.
But we hope you guys have enjoyed this video. And stick around for our future videos. Comment down below as well what kind of reptiles you guys keep in your reptile room. I think that's fair. That's fair, yeah. Comment down below. Don't forget to leave a like because it really shows the support for the channel as well. It shows that we are making good content and that you guys are enjoying it. But we hope you guys have enjoyed and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, what was that?
Did she just bite you?
I don't know.